Everybody, what's good? What's good? What's good? Pardon on the impromptu fix up. Trying to get a few things set up here. It's been a while since we've actually been in the gallery again. As you can see, like I said before, if you had seen the test stream, it's gonna just be me tonight. Unfortunately, DarksKing has not been feeling well the last couple weeks. He's fine. He's just actually taking a bit of a sabbatical, where he can get to feeling better. So keep him in your thoughts and your prayers. His leg's been bothering him. Been having issues with that. With that being said, though, what we're going to talk about today is actually we are going to be discussing a little something about just what's up, Kiara Rob? We're actually going to be talking about just recap, kind of a review. See, you're so judgmental. Just a review of everything that, a lot of us have been through in this past year and how it's affected us. Like, really. I think it's good for us to take some time to really consider just how things in our collective universes affect us, Because honestly, it can be difficult. Adulting is hard. There's no middle ground to it. Adulting is hard. Sometimes getting through life is hard. With that being said, this is just a time for us to all convene together and just enjoy ourselves and maybe talk about some experiences that we've had in the past year that have changed us, maybe for the better, maybe for worse, maybe both, That's just something that I think would be good for all of us. Considering the fact that sometimes as adults, because we get so busy with life and with just doing everything else, we don't have time to really talk about what we deal with, Oh, that's likely, what the static is? It's probably the phone. Sometimes the phones do that, and unfortunately I have to carry around 2 phones for my job, so that might be that. Is it still staticky? Hold on. And close out a couple of these programs that might help. What's up, Magic System? It's good to see you. Let's see. See how it's going. I'm trying to monitor the Facebook too. Okay, good. You're sounding good. That is wonderful. Like I said, we're back in the gallery. Our old space. We had some difficulties before with the internet and everything, so I'm not going to try to belabor too much. But I do want to know, what are some of the things that you guys have went through in this past year that has maybe made you think differently or change your perspective on life? That's something I'm really curious about. Let me see. I'll post the question up on everything, as we often do. Normally, I have him to kind of field these things in the background. Give me a second. One second. So I'm going to post this question up. What are some experiences that have changed or altered your perspective in the past year? and how have they? Hold on. I'll make just for the people on YouTube. I'll pin that as a comment as well. Let's see. He might pop up. Sid might actually pop up on here. I don't know if he will. But yeah, of course, DarksKing's in our thoughts. I think a lot of it is just stress. I mean, honestly, I've been experiencing a bit more stress than normal in the last, I want to say maybe month or two. And a lot of it has been partially due to, just experiences with work, experiences with life. And sometimes what we don't realize, it can be either. It can be any of them, honestly. I'm open to whatever. Let's see. Don't give people a third, fourth, or fifth chance. After 2 times, it's enough for them to learn without changing. Okay. And would you mind sharing what kind of brought that about? Like, what experiences brought that about? If you don't feel like sharing, it's okay. But I'm just more curious about, what brought you to this point. Route 25 says, my perspective on people has only gotten worse. Yeah. And, sometimes it can get like that. It's really something that, sorry. It's really something that just leans towards the perspective of cynicism. And I think as we get older, it gets that much easier for us to be cynical and for us to look at things in a very jaded view and from a very jaded perspective. Honestly, yeah. Okay, Kiara Route 25 says it's work, experience, and personal life has been what has brought me to that in time. Yeah. And that makes perfect sense, honestly. It's just one of those things where, for me, my recent experiences have done more to teach me to be more firm. It has really done that. That has been what the main thing is that's happened. I've learned to become that much more firm. And as a result of that, I have had to harden myself. And it's difficult. It's difficult because when you're trying to be a positive person and you're trying to be a more pro-social person and have more of a positive view on things, you want to have a look at things from a perspective where you don't look at things jaded, where you don't, just automatically perceive people in a negative light, Okay, Magic System says, I had a relationship that lasted a week with someone I gave a 5th chance to, and she did the same exact thing she did the last 3 times and dumped me for the same guy. She's polyamorous, but kept going monogamous for him. Okay, wow, that is an interesting perspective too. In reference to that, there may not be a lot of people who are on here who really do understand polyamory to the degree that you might. I certainly don't. I've learned some things from friends and like associates and reading, of course, but it's not the same as like an actual learned experience, like something you've been through. So that's definitely interesting. I am sorry that happened. But like I said, sometimes these experiences are intended to teach us things. Negative experiences sometimes bring us back into reality, help to reel us in, and help us to really learn how we should approach situations. Because sometimes we don't get it. Let's be real. People are difficult. Humans are stubborn. We like to believe what we believe. So as a result of that, sometimes we experience what's called cognitive dissonance. That's another, earworm from something we talked about previously. And we try to avoid that cognitive dissonance by just digging down and being like, man, no, it's gonna be this way. It's got to be this way. It's got to be the way that I think it is. And when we do that, another friend. Well, let me finish this and I'll read that. When we do that, we restrict ourselves from having new experiences. We stop ourselves from really being able to look at things from a different perspective or through different eyes because we only want to see it in one specific view when there could be numerous. Magic System said another friend put the blame on me for the fourth time of the friendship not working out just because I got depressed and shut down for a couple days. Yeah, and another thing that is important, and it's kind of interesting that you brought that up, is that during this time of year, this is a time where, while it is technically the spirit giving, the spirit of merriment, and this is the time where we are supposed to be, happy and really just appreciative of what is around us and who's around us. This is also a time where people are at their most depressed. This is a time that seems to be shrouded in loss and suffering, or just that time to reminisce on that. There was I think about a couple of years ago. Has it been 2 years? I think it's been 2 years. One of my uncles died roughly 3 days after Thanksgiving. So as a result, we had to spend that next Christmas without him. And that was something that was very, very different for all of us. It was very hard on my grandmother because that was her younger brother. If you see the message pop up again, it's really just because I'm posting it for the YouTubers. But in all seriousness, oh, thank you. Yeah, actually, my grandfather lost a cousin literally yesterday. So, this is a time of year that is very shrouded in loss. And as a result, a lot of people don't always know how to face it and deal with it because it is hard on us. Sometimes it's the merriment you want to feel, and maybe that person isn't here with you, or maybe you and that person ain't in agreement with each other, or maybe they can't make it. You never know. Especially with COVID and everything, people getting sick, people not being around their family. It's rough. It is very rough. And I think COVID has changed a lot of us, some for the better and some for worse. Let's see. Kiara Route 25 says, I believe the polygamous or polyamorous, I think she's saying, is another term. If it was for you, that's because humans are jealous and selfish back for some folks. Yeah. And some of that has to do with just basic commonalities. Cultural norms, where situations where monogamy is the norm, and it's not, and it would be considered technically unnatural for someone to practice polyamory. These are situations where, yeah, it will be seen in a completely different view. It literally will be looked at from a different lens just because of the fact that it's not something that people are used to, Like I said, I'm just the type of person, I don't judge anything that I don't fully understand. So if anything, I try to do what I can to get an understanding of what's going on or the nature of things. Because for all intents and purposes, I could be all the way off and wrong, And that is something that, we have to accept as people, is that we're going to be different. We're going to be different. And because we're different, it allows for variation. It allows for varied experiences. Am I cutting in and out? Of course. Okay, it's back to normal. That's weird. I was hoping it wouldn't do that. Is it back? Is it back? What I might do is I might close some tabs too. Probably just got some junk running in the background. Yeah, I do. Let me see if I can fix that. All right, cool. Go ahead and quit that real quick. I still got my drops and stuff active, so I'm gonna go ahead and close these down. I think that may have been contributing to it. I probably just had a lot of stuff running at the same time as well. And sometimes that makes it difficult. But yeah, in all seriousness, a lot of times we do have experiences that change us. I know. It's actually not as many tabs this time, surprisingly enough. I am going to close Facebook because sometimes Facebook takes up too much. I don't know why. But anywho, it is interesting to see things from different perspectives. I think it's important as well, just because of the fact that people don't always get an understanding of everything. And sometimes our understanding comes from viewing things from different perspectives. You know what I'm saying? And that's something that I hope that people do come to understand and really just perceive better. Trying to make sure I monitor all the comments because I don't want to miss anything. Yeah, wish we could. But anywho, you mean Meta? Yeah, Meta. We'll call it that. I'm not gonna talk too much smack about Facebook because they automatically post stuff for us now. So I'm trying to keep them in our good graces. Well, I'm trying to be in their good graces, I guess. I should start advertising Arizona's. But anyway, one thing I was gonna say is, for me, I had an experience at work where I made a bad judgment call. And in the line of work that I'm in, any bad judgment call could lead to very serious repercussions, for everyone involved. It could cause a lot of problems. It could go from causing a lot of problems to you potentially having to go to court and getting subpoenaed, you know what I mean? So thankfully none of that happened, but it was something where even though my bosses, my supervisors, everybody was looking at me and being like, look, man, you made a mistake. It's okay. It's fine. I was like, all right, cool. But at the same time, I got so stressed out through that whole week that I was more tired. I was more sluggish. I was frustrated. I didn't show it, at work, actually. But I was frustrated and I was bothered by a lot of things. But what that ultimately taught me, that experience, and DarksKing was one of the ones who talked to me and really was like, man, you got to pick yourself back up from this. Just because you mess up doesn't mean you just fall apart, right? So, but what that taught me and what that prepared me for later on is being able to have that firmness that's needed in order to deal with people. Because that's something I've always struggled with. I was always the nice guy. I was always the type of person who literally would give you my left shoe if you needed it. I don't know why you would need just one shoe, Like literally, not even to brag, this is just an example. Me and my nephew were leaving from my grandparents' house and we saw a guy who was stalled out right at the corner of the road. And I stopped, normally somebody would see that and be like, whatever. I stopped off to the side and I asked him if he needed any help. Turns out he was a DoorDasher and his car ran out of gas, and he was actually on his way to the gas station. So I was like, all right, man. He's like, look, he's like, well, you got a gas can? He's like, yeah. So we went ahead, picked him up, and took him to the gas station so he could get, he could get his gas can filled up. And he ended up buying us cookies because they had a little convenience store in there. But other than that, it's just the literal fact that that's the type of person I am, And I don't say that to brag or to be stuck up or anything like that. It's just the literal fact that that's the way that I look at things. You know what I mean? It's one of those things where I try to be a positive person because I feel like that's the way we should be. That's the way we should be. Not everybody knows what it's like to be successful, but everybody knows what it's like to fail. Everybody knows what it's like to be in a negative situation, So as a result of that, it's something where you learn to be understanding of that and empathetic to that. Let's see. Oh, got a couple on Facebook. Oh, what's up, Nikki? Good to see you. Rico Luis Mendez said, my experience is my health thinking it was one thing and swearing it was much more than what was being told. Then finding out it's what you were suspecting and not being taken seriously. Ooh. Yeah. And I can imagine that did a lot to change your perspective and definitely made you think a lot, maybe negatively, about the people that were around you who may have just been telling you that you were tripping or that you didn't know what you were talking about. And I can't imagine what that's like. I've had friends. I got a friend who's my age who had to have several surgeries because of cancer. And this dude is one of the most positive people I've ever met. And I'm like, and that's scary. I don't even know how I would deal with that. Magic System says, I'm the same way. I just gave away a pitcher with a 6-month filter for clean water and 4 bags of canned food to a friend. I'm just that type of person. I try to help people as much as I can. Yeah. And honestly, there's nothing wrong with that. The only thing about people who are like that, my only advice to you is just to guard yourself, because it's important to do. You have to guard yourself because there are people that will exploit that. It's nothing wrong with being helpful. And sometimes that's what comes from these, experiences. We get to thinking, there's just something wrong with the way that I am. I can't be the way that I am because of the way the world is. No, you can be nice and you can be kind and you can be helpful, but you have to be receptive of the fact and understanding of the fact that there will be people that will try to exploit that. And you have to guard yourself accordingly. If you don't, you will cause a lot more trouble for yourself than you want to. Honestly. And yeah, Rico Luis Mendez said, be careful being so nice. I've gotten jaded because of it. Yes. And it's very easy to do. It's very, very easy to do. It's one of those things where you have to look at, you really have to look at how people may treat you, because you may potentially end up in a situation where someone sees the way you carry yourself as an opportunity to attack you, as an opportunity to exploit you, as an opportunity to use you in a certain way or utilize you for something that they want, And it's nothing more than just the nature of humanity. People will only do what you allow them to do. Magic Sister says, thank you for the warning. Of course, look, we only say it just because for a lot of us, it's happened to us, and no one wants to feel that way about anyone or anything. But it's one of those things where if you don't check yourself about that, it causes a lot of issues. It causes so many issues. And I try to be positive as possible about it, but it doesn't always work that way. Sometimes That one was not edited right. That's weird. But sometimes things do not work out the way that they're supposed to, or at least the way that we think it's supposed to. You know, because sometimes these experiences are supposed to teach you who's really in your corner, who's not, right? So sometimes they really just let you know that this person isn't who you should be near or be around. This isn't the individual that you need to be dealing with. You know what I mean? And sometimes, with that being said, you have to learn a hard lesson. And I say it's a hard lesson because it's one that none of us really want to learn. None of us really want to have that experience of being frustrated because somebody treated us a certain way. You know what I mean? Or because somebody decided that they could use us or they could, manipulate us in some way. It's messed up. It's not okay. It's not right. There's so much to that is very damaging. It's very damaging to people. And says, yes, it has. People take and take and take. Yes. And I know we've kind of gone off on a tangent, but, in a way, this is good. This is good. I wanted us to discuss things that affect us. And sometimes the main thing that affects us is people and the way they conduct themselves. And I don't want to place the blame on just other people, because sometimes even those of us who are selfless have selfish moments. We make mistakes because of the one time, maybe it's the one time or the one moment that we decide we want to be selfish, that we want just what we want, And with that being said, I think sometimes we have to learn when it's okay to be selfish. Because in a lot of cases, those who are just naturally selfish overuse it. Those who aren't naturally selfish, they try to use it but don't know how to apply it or what situations to apply it in. So as a result, they end up causing more discord and more problems for themselves, for others, It's messed up, man. It's real messed up. And with things like that, you just got to learn to roll with the punches and try to deal as best you can. That's the nicest way I could say it. Because sometimes it's hard. Sometimes it is hard. And you don't know exactly how to approach the situation other than just being frustrated, being angry, feeling bothered about stuff, But let me not get to talking too much. Seriously, somebody share another experience. You see the question. What are some experiences that have changed or altered your perspective in the past year, and how have they? I really want to know what you guys think. Seriously. There's 5 of us in here. We can have a discussion. 6 of us. There's 1 person in Twitch. Shout out to 1 person in Twitch. Because this is definitely something I think we should all talk about, especially going into this new year. Because, the new year usually signifies new beginning, rebirth, us recreating ourselves from the ground up and trying to be better than we were the year before, right? Or at the very least, just being glad we survived another year, shoot. As many things in the world has been trying to kill us, shoot. Man. Speaking of that, look, honestly, that's just one part of my year. The other part, throughout this year has been a year of me being faced with a lot of very hard decisions, with a lot of things that I had to prove to myself I was capable of doing. I've had to do that a lot, actually. I've had to approach a lot of things that I normally never would have even stepped into the realm of, right? Never would have even touched beforehand. And I've had to really walk into that and be like, I'm just going to make this happen, Rico Luis Mendez said, a big thing besides health is getting too emotionally involved in things that are out of my control and allowing them to bother me so bad. I've tried to explain why. Some of it is because it happened to me and I know the damage it does. Yeah, that is huge. That is huge. And I feel you. The main thing I was talking about is a case where it's a situation that I had no control over. I couldn't fix it. I couldn't do anything about it. Once it was done, right? But I spent so much time, I spent a whole week stressing about it, being frustrated, being mad at myself. Not anybody else, being mad at myself, right? That you think that maybe I had the power to do that. I didn't. And I think sometimes it's that feeling of powerlessness that afflicts us even worse than just the failure. Or, because it's one thing when you fail on your own terms and it's something you can go back and fix because it's entirely in your scope of control. But it's a different thing when something happens to you. Maybe you don't even mess up. Maybe something bad just happens, right? Something just happens. And all of a sudden, you're stuck in a situation that you don't know how to get out of because you don't have the power to. You have no way to do it. So as a result of that, you're just stuck, And sometimes when it comes to physical ailments, mental issues, debilitation, it is hard, But like I was saying, the early portion of this year has been mostly just me making a lot of very hard decisions. Me having to take the helm on things that I never thought I would have to, right? Trying not to go into details, but even when, y'all remember I was talking about my grandparents both being in the hospital. It's the first time in my life, 28, first time in nearly 30 years of living that both of them have been down at the same time. And I had to take the helm on a lot of decisions. I had to make sure certain affairs were handled and make sure things were taken care of. And there's a lot of, people, family members who like to take that, helm of whatever because they like the power that comes with it or the influence. Look, man, I'm good. I'm glad that everything worked out, but I don't want to repeat that for a while. Because, dog, that's stressful. When you have other people's lives in your hands, that is stressful. And I think a lot of what happened early in the year with having to make those hard decisions is what molded me to be ready for the things that happened later in the year, where I was in a position where someone else's life, someone else's future, someone else's progress is in my hands. And that is heavy. And maybe if I didn't have those experiences early in the year, I wouldn't have had no idea how to deal with things now. Rico Luis Mendez says, our society is a mess right now. Everyone hating, the violence. It's so hard to separate the emotions away from it. Yeah. I mean, we literally had two instances of gun violence, and one person died in the last week. That was just in this city. That by itself is insane. And it really just demonstrates that people are jaded. It makes you really wonder what's going on with the world. It makes you truly, truly wonder what's going on in the world and why some of these things are happening. Because it's so bad. I can certainly say that, we deal with a lot in this life. And as we grow, as we develop, as we hopefully get better at dealing with things and approaching things in life, it gets more difficult, but it also becomes more important because we have to focus ourselves a lot. we have to take the time to really hone in on what is going on in our sphere of influence and what things we influence. Magic System said, wow, I didn't know that. I don't keep up with news because it makes me end up having more anxiety. Honestly, the only reason I know that I even knew what was really going on is because I happened to listen to the radio, and I heard it on the radio one morning when I was at work and I was driving. So, you know, a lot of things are crazy. And that's another thing that, yeah, we need to work on. We need to keep our ear to the ground when it comes to certain things that are going on. Because if you don't, you risk being caught off guard with a lot of stuff. And it's very easy to do that, you know? Honestly, it's very easy to do that. And I try not to say that in a way where it scares people, but seriously, it is hard. Life is hard, but it makes it that much more worth it. What's up, Cam? It's good with you. But yeah, for those who are just now popping up on Facebook or on YouTube, you see the question, what are some experiences that have changed or altered your perspective in the past year, and how have they? So that's what we're talking about right now. We've been up here for about 36 minutes. We might end it an hour. If you guys want to go a little bit longer, that's cool. Like I said, DarksKing's not with us today. He's taking a hiatus day because he just hasn't been feeling well. So I'm praying for a swift recovery, and that he can get back on his feet so that way he can be right here, right next to me, and we can be chopping it up. Because honestly, we're a duo for a reason. We work better as a team. With that being said, there is one thing I do want to plug, I do want to say, is that we have merch, in case you didn't know. Some of you have our merch or are about to have our merch because the shipments are taking forever. For those of you guys who have gotten some, how has that been? Has it been of good quality? Is everything great? Did you have any issues with your order? We need to know because we want to try to optimize that. This is actually the flow page. On that page, you can actually find the merch. You can find the merch, the podcast, the most recent podcast episode, which we are catching up with the podcast episodes. The one for Entitlement came out on Christmas Eve, so that's there. Okay, Javar Madison. One thing that has changed my perspective is the pandemic. I have learned that people generally do not care about the lives of others, and it has caused me not to want to be involved in what others do. Yeah. And you know, that's a sentiment that I have seen echoed a lot in the last 2 years. Because, you know, we got to count 2022, or this is basically 2020 part 2, if we're going to be real. But yeah. And in a way, that's kind of been what I've tried to learn, is to reconcile being caring and being completely uncaring and trying to find a middle ground in being firm. Like, I don't want to just be, you know, perfectly nice and hospitable to everyone and people who don't deserve that sort of treatment. But at the same time, I don't want to be mean to everybody either, you know? So I try to find a nice middle ground in being firm. And one thing I would tell you is, look, man, know what you're worth. Appraise your value. Appraise your value right and properly. Give yourself a moment to sit down, look at what you bring to the table when it comes to dealing with other people, and then weigh the scales accordingly. And when it comes to that, if somebody's approaching you with something and it sounds like some BS, let it be. If it's something where you could genuinely be of aid and it's not going to come as a compromise to your character or the type of person you are or who you want to be, then that's fine. That's when you can be a nice person. That's when you can be a good person. That's when you can be a genuine person. Just so long as it doesn't risk you compromising yourself. For me, that's always been kind of the litmus test that I go through, is just whether or not I'm compromising myself in order to, satiate somebody else's needs, satisfy somebody else's needs or wants or whatever, That's something that I think that we all have had to collectively work on. Because it's hard. I'm not going to front about it. It's hard. It's very difficult to do that, Let me see if there's any messages I missed, because sometimes YouTube be on that dirt. Let's see. Nope. Looks like we're all covered. Because there are sometimes, I will say, sometimes if you guys put too many no words into the YouTube comments, it doesn't show up on the top chat, and that's what it's automatically set as. So I have to sometimes go into live chat just to see them. I've missed a lot of messages like that, so I'm trying not to do that. But anywho, one thing that we have to learn is that our experiences are intended to make us better, to make us stronger, to make us smarter, to make us more aware of what's going on in our sphere of influence, right? And even outside of it. Because sometimes we have the concept of what I've called me, my, for, and more, and no more. And as a result of that, you only see what's in your immediate sphere of influence, which could be your family, your friends, and maybe a couple coworkers that you actually like outside of work, right? But we have to realize that sometimes we affect things that are outside of that, and that we have influence in different ways. And that's totally okay. It's totally fine. You know what I mean? There's nothing wrong with that. With that being said, it's important, like I said, to appraise yourself. Understand what your worth is, and understand the things that you affect, the things that you directly affect with what you do, with what you say, the way you carry yourself. Oh, I missed that. I'm sorry, Magic System. I did not see where you said, what do you mean about checking myself? Sometimes it's really just, when I say check yourself, I really mean like appraise yourself. You do have to take the time to be like, okay, where do I stand right now? Am I in the right position? Am I doing the right thing? Am I saying the right things? Because sometimes we get offended by stuff, honestly, and we are nowhere near about the right. It's just the truth. Sometimes we get bothered by things that are bothering us because we did something to bring it about. And I just don't want you ending up in a situation where it's like that, and you're thinking, man, it's getting out on my nerves, and then came at me. Man, it's like, man. My boy is here. Sid TV, aka the DarksKing poet, is in the chat. He is here. Man said, made it recovering. Yes, Lord. Your twin say you old, by the way. I just want to let you know that. But yeah. Look, bro, since you here, why don't you go ahead and share with the rest of the class, how your experiences this year have changed or altered your perspective in this past year. I said past year twice. But what are some experiences that you have had that have changed or altered your perspective in this year, and how have they? I want to know what you got to say, because I know you got some stuff for the people. For real. On an off note, one nice thing about it being a Sunday is you guys get to see me dressed nice. Not saying I never dress nice on any other days, but these days it's the nicest it gets is like a polo shirt. So honestly, so it is what it is. But yeah, this is definitely something that, you know, we all need to take time to think about. Because one thing we were probably going to talk about next week, Lord willing, is resolutions, right? Because we'll be a day into the new year, starting next week. So this will be the last live stream of the year. And of course, you know, with New Year's, everybody has their resolutions. Everybody has this, well, I'm going to go do this, and I'm going to go do that, and I'm going to make this thing amazing. And that's great. But I think a bit of self-assessment before doing that is of utmost importance, because I think sometimes we set ourselves up with big goals when we are not at the level to achieve them. Not saying you can't, but just that you're not quite there yet, you know? And it's okay to say that you're not. It's totally okay to say that you're not. You know, there's nothing wrong with that. All you're doing is being honest with yourself. And sometimes that brutal honesty is what can save you from a lot of negative situations. Y'all got me rambling. Bro, what you on? You ain't talking. I know if you was here, you'd be talking. What's good? I'm like scrolling through junk, trying to make sure I don't miss anything. But in any event, one thing I would like to say to everyone, if you guys still feel like dropping stuff and letting us know about what's going on in your sphere of influence, please do. And of course, one thing that I always forget to tell people is that you can still post in these things after the live stream's over. You totally can. There he is. All right. What was I gonna say? So my brother said, overall solid year. I've had many wins, a few large L's, including one today, but I breathe still. A specific and significant one was the loss of my cousin back in September. Yeah. And, you know, sometimes losing family members, people that you love and care about, is extremely hard on you. You know, there are certain things you can't share with that person because they're not here anymore. There's certain things you can't do with that person because they're not here anymore. It sucks. You know, and I know me and you talked, and from what you said, you and this individual were very close. You know, y'all were like brothers. So I totally understand, you know. He said, I'm working to get my overall health back to where it was physically and mentally. My cuz didn't do the best in those regards, and currently neither am I. Look, bruh, who you telling? I'm about to be right with you. I'm about to be right with you, yeah. And it was to his detriment, as it has been with ours. You know, sometimes we have to understand that although we are still technically young, we're not as young as we were. So we can't do a lot of the reckless and crazy things that we used to do. You know, I can't suck down sodas all the time and gorge myself on Mountain Dew and eat a whole bunch of chips and do a whole bunch of stuff super late at night and be up until 3 o'clock and then expect to still get up at 5:30 in the morning. Just doesn't work anymore. I mean, I could, but look, I'm crashing at some point, bro. Because I ain't built for all that right now. You know, I know my health isn't as good as it could be. I know that where I stand physically, I could do to lose some weight. I could do to go down a pant size or two, right? Look, some of these collars fit a little tight, you know what I'm saying? So, look, I be looking at some of my pictures and stuff. The cheeks be looking fat. It is what it is. And this is why I say self-assessment is important. Self-assessment is important because these are the things that we ignore. Right, but that won't be you. Yes, sir. Without self-assessment, we don't see these things. We look in the mirror and we like, man, you all right. And we'll UI ourselves into an early grade. You know what I'm saying? Like, and I've seen so many people do it. You know, I see people actively doing it now, where they think that they can outthink something that they're experiencing instead of just dealing with it. Sometimes you just got to deal with it. It's okay. There's nothing wrong with going through something or being in the midst of a struggle or a test or a trial. That is humanity. That is life, bro. That's what life is. It's going through stuff. You're gonna go through stuff. There's no shame in it. There's nothing wrong with it at all. What's wrong is if you don't learn anything from it. What's wrong is if you don't make yourself any better. What's wrong is if you put yourself in positions that you've been in time after time after time after time after time, and you don't improve. You don't learn anything. You don't progress. That's when it's wrong. But there's absolutely nothing wrong with just ending up in a negative situation. Just ending up in a situation that's going to affect or afflict you. That is life. That is life. And we deal with it however we're going to deal with it. You know? The thing is, we have to try to learn to be better about how we approach things. Gerard said, amen. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. And I know I'm going to misquote you, DarksKing, but I've heard you say something along the lines of, my only competition is the me from the day before. I'm sure that's a misquote, but that's as close as it's going to get because my memory be crap sometimes. So, but I feel that. That's something that I've heard from you that I really do appreciate is it's true. The only thing I should strive to do as a person is to be better than I was the day before, the minute before, the second before, the hour before, the year before, whatever, you know, whatever unit of measurement works best for you in that case. Because sometimes we label ourselves as good people because we've been good people for so long, and we're still clinging on the good person that was back in 2014, not realizing you ain't that person anymore. You've done a lot of selfish things since then. You may not have become a quote unquote bad person, but you are definitely a different individual than you were back then, and that you're trying to portray, right? And that's something that we have to deal with. And I'm not saying that as a judgment. That's something I say to myself, you know. There it is. Yes, that's about right. My only competition is the me that was. Ain't nobody my equal but I. And can't nobody be you but you. You know what I mean? Seriously. It's hard enough being yourself. Don't try to be nobody else. I always remember my mom and my grandmother used to say this, that me and my grandfather, you know, we was two peas in pods when I was a kid, you know. I say that like we don't hang out now, but we just don't as much because of work. He said, yeah, y'all used to go everywhere. Y'all used to talk the same. You used to walk the same. You got the same walk, same mannerisms, everything, right? And that is natural for a child to do. We base what our ideal view of being a man or being a woman or being an adult on the adults around us, on those who influence us the most. So that's natural. But at some point in my life, I had to diverge from that. And I had to become my own person. There are some things that me and him do not agree on. And that's not a judgment towards him, and that's not anything bad on my end. It's just something, we just have difference of opinion. We have differences of views. You know, me and DarksKing, we don't agree on everything. Do we come at each other for it? No. We respectfully agree to disagree, but we respectfully agree to disagree on certain subjects. And in a lot of ways, that's what makes what we do here so much better, because I feel like, and this is not necessarily a criticism on other podcasts or other people who do these things, but I feel like so many people only desire to surround themselves with yes men and yes women, and they do it so much, or rather they surround themselves with people who have a homogenous mindset and way of thinking to them that is so homogenous that the two, you and that person, are indistinguishable from each other in terms of your thoughts and your views. And for me personally, while I like having some similarities to somebody that I'm around, where we're kind of on the same page or whatever, I don't want you to agree with every single thing I say. Some of my best friends think radically different from me. Literally, the closest people that have ever been to me, the people who I've labeled as my brothers, my best friends, my homies, they disagree with me more than, probably the most, to be honest, now that I really think about it, you know? And it's not necessarily in a bad way. It's not necessarily to say that, you know, they just think I'm stupid or I just think they're stupid. No, it's that we're different. Yes, the echo chamber is strong. Speak on that. Now, that's something we do agree on. No, your circle of friends should not be an echo chamber. The reason your circle of friends should not be an echo chamber is because that means when one of you decides to be an idiot, the rest of you will. No, you want a divergent opinion. Not to cause discord, not to cause problems, but to offer up a different perspective, right? This is gonna be a weird movie reference. It's because I happened to watch, I forgot what it was. I think it was World War Z. And the leader, I think it was one of the world leaders that was in, what's up, Castro? It was one of the world leaders that was in Israel. He said they had a concept that was called the 10th man rule, right? Which is, if there are 10 men in the room and 9 of them agree to a certain course of action, it is up to the 10th man to come up with a divergent solution. And I feel that. I like that. I know it's a random reference from a movie, a zombie movie at that, but it makes sense. It makes sense. Because anytime you end up in a room full of yes men, you will get to a certain point and you will stop. Because their reach is only as far as yours. You can't progress from that. You will eventually reach a limit. You will reach an end where you think that you're at the pinnacle, you think you're at the top, and you've got so much higher to go. And maybe if somebody was in there telling you, hey man, you need to get up, you need to go do this, you need to go do that, you'd probably be mad because you're not comfortable anymore. And now the person wants to make you feel uncomfortable, and now you're feeling the dissonance of not being in a comfortable position. You're feeling the dissonance because you think that you're at the top and you're really only halfway up. But guess what you're going to do if you got any good sense? You're going to be like, you know what? Bet. Let's see what you're talking about. You're going to start climbing. And next thing you know, you're going to reach a different pinnacle. All because somebody presented you with a different idea, a different perspective. You know? That's what our experiences are supposed to teach us. Sorry, I keep having this dry spot in my throat and it's getting on my nerves. I guess y'all pray for me too, shoot. being around these kids and parents and all these other folks, man. COVID's still floating around, but that ain't even the big issue. The big issue is really just dealing with all the other stuff that we thought disappeared after COVID left or after COVID showed up. Dog, common cold still exists. You know, flu still exists. All that stuff still exists. You can get a sinus infection like this, even if you don't get COVID. For real. Anywho, but for real though, I'm gonna give a little bit of time for some of the ones who popped in to add their comments and say what some experiences were that they've had that have altered their perspective in the past year. Because I don't want anybody being left out. And then after that, we'll speak on that, and I'll probably just give my closing thoughts. So yeah, hey, Castro, if you're still on here, bro, let us know something, because I know you've had a journey. If not mentally, definitely physically, because we've actually seen some of your journey. In fact, if you're still on here, post up a link to your YouTube so we can put it up on the screen. It should pop up on the side. Because, yeah. I'm actually glad to have you around, man, because you keep looming on as a voice in my head saying that I need to go get in the gym. So I appreciate that. I haven't made it yet, but I'm going to get there. I'm going to get there. Because all this, yeah, no. This got to go. My arms are doing all right. You know, legs is all right. The middle, we gotta fix this situation. All right. It looks great in a sweater, just not out of it. You get what I'm saying? But yeah. But yeah, please share your thoughts. Please do. We always appreciate it. I'm saying we, and it's really me, but I know if Sid was here, he would feel the same way. And honestly, I'm just used to saying we. It's weird not having my brother here. So, but yeah, I'll give you guys a little bit of time, and then if no one has anything else, we'll go into closing statements, and we'll go start out of here. Kiki Nikoru, yes, one of the OGs has returned. Kiki Nikoru says, learning how to detach myself from people and things that don't serve purposes in my life. Knowing that I have control of what enters my space, and ain't no I added a word. And no toxic energy is allowed. Yes. Every bit of that. And that's something that I think a lot of us have had to learn. I like that you said, I allow what enters my space. I have control over what enters my space. And that's true. You may not have control over situations that you end up in sometimes. You may not have control over certain calamities that may fall on you, your family, or whoever, but you do have control over who you allow to be in your space, in your ear, in your face, or around you. And sometimes having certain folks like that around you just ain't right. You ever been around somebody and you really, you can't put your finger on it, but there's something off about them. You ever been in a room where you just feel, it feels wrong to be in there? You can't say for sure because maybe you don't know them, or maybe you don't know enough about the situation to really say what it is, but it just feels wrong. I know I have. Seriously, and that's part of that. It's part of just really understanding. And now look, I'm gonna be honest with you. We all work. We're all, yes, and they showed their colors as always. Yes. I'm gonna be honest with you. Let's be realistic, because we're all about being realistic. Sometimes, because we work, because a lot of us work, you know, if you don't, no judgments to you, but most of the folks on here work. Because we work, we have coworkers, we might have clients, we may have customers, whoever, whatever, people we deal with. excuse me, sometimes we don't have a choice in who is in our space at that moment. Sometimes we have no control whatsoever over who is allowed to be right next to us on this side, right next to us on that side, and sitting across from us. Sometimes you will end up in a situation where you are in a room and you looking around for somebody positive and you can't find nobody. Yes, you get sloppy from pretending so long. You dang near lose who you truly are in the process. Yes, I agree with that. And in this particular situation, sometimes you're in a situation where ain't no way that you would be around any of these people that's in this room if you had your choice. But unfortunately, you don't. And in those situations, you have to learn to steel yourself. You have to learn to be firm and stand firm in who you are and what you are. Because you're right. If you're not careful by trying to pretend and trying to fall in line with whatever foolishness is going around, just because you're the odd one, you'll lose yourself. Or you'll say something and they'll take it, flip it, put the thing down, flip it and reverse it, and turn it into something negative that you never even meant to say. Now all of a sudden you're right in cahoots with them. You're another one of the bad guys, you know, and that's a scary thing to be in. But I have to be real and say that these are things that you can be approached with in life. You can. Very easily. And that's why I say, once again, you have to guard yourself. Guard your energy, guard your mind, guard your soul, guard your heart when it comes to certain things. And learn to be firm about where you stand, about who you are, about what you are, about what you do. Because so long as you have an understanding of who you are and what you are, you'll never lose yourself. At least not completely. You might slip up, you might falter, you might screw up a couple times, you may mess up majorly, but you can always come back to square if you know where your basis is. Because yourself, that's your base. That's your foundation, right? So if you still have that foundation, it doesn't matter what happens to the building. The building is what people see of you, right? It doesn't matter if that thing burns to the ground. As long as the foundation is there, you can rebuild. You can fix yourself, right? House may not look the same. House may not be as big. House may not be as nice. May take a long time for you to rebuild, but you can do it. And sometimes it's the simple fact of knowing that you can do it that is enough, or has to be enough for certain situations. Because, to be honest, brokenness is a part of life. Suffering is a part of life. Being hurt, having negative experiences, dealing with, I hate this word, toxic people, corrosive people, dealing with individuals who just don't have your best interest in mind or just want to use you is a part of life. It's something we can't fully avoid. We can try and do all right for a while, but it's something you can't fully avoid. So when you do get faced with it, you got to know what you need to do. You got to be prepared for what you need to do when you're in a situation where you can't just tiptoe your way away from it. If you can, that's great. And honestly, I'd say by all means do so, because I'm not going to lie, it takes a lot of energy and a lot of trying and a lot of doing to get through things like that. But anyway, I don't want to get to preaching. It's Sunday. Most of y'all have already been to church, and if you haven't, well, they got televangelists on TV. Who am I kidding? Most of y'all don't watch TV. Most of y'all local pastors are on the internet too. The pandemic finally made some of them learn that, I can use this device to put things on the internet. Thank your local musicians for that. Anyway, I do want to say that I appreciate you all being here. In spite of our altered situation right now, In spite of the fact that, our brother is not with us. I say it like he's dead. He's right here. But he's still on here. Put a thumbs up if you're still here, Sid. But we appreciate y'all being with us through yet another year. This marks a year and a few months that we've been in this. 46 episodes deep. Soon to be 47 and 48 because really we're running behind. We about to be at 50 episodes. It's crazy. And I don't know how many podcasts, live streams. Not as much as that, but yeah. And we're still going. We're still improving. We're still building. We're still trying to do better. There you are. But we always appreciate y'all being with us, man. Taking time out of your busy schedules. Because I know the weird thing is I learned from music. I'm like, man, most of my fans have lives and kids and jobs and stuff. Like, I have very responsible fans. You guys are productive members of society, which means y'all ain't always out like that. It's okay, because I'm not either. But I appreciate y'all being here. I appreciate y'all sticking around, sharing your stories, sharing your experiences. And I would urge you to continue to do so, even under the normal comments, even after this video is over. If you need something, you got something you want to express, something you want to say, by all means do it. Look, because we understand what it's like. We know what it's like to not really have an outlet or to have to write something out for us to really understand where we're standing. So by all means, if you didn't make it to the live stream, the videos are always up on YouTube. I think they stay on Facebook for a little bit, and I think they stay on Twitch for at least a day or two. So by all means, make another post. We read them. I get the updates all the time. I know a few more people subscribed today. So, shout out to them. They may not be on here. Either way. But as we do around this time, this has been the Black in a Minute podcast, brought to you by Twyman Arts and this lovely facility where the Wi-Fi finally freaking works. Anyway, I'm sorry, I had to get that out. But as always, I've been NeRo AnGelo. This brother man over here, I'm pointing, is the DarksKing poet, aka Sid TV, and we want to wish you a good night, happy holidays, happy new year, and here's to new beginnings, new possibilities. It's not wine. We drink out of plastic. It's out. See, this would be the moment he would say power, but it's so weird. All right, look, we are going to be back next week. This is weird. It's weird to not say both. But whatever. Peace out. God bless. Power.